Adrian Cole felt it the moment he stepped inside that evening. The air was wrong. Too quiet. Not peaceful, just empty, like a room after a storm had passed and taken something with it. He placed his keys on the counter and waited for Maribel's usual greeting. It did not come. For 18 years, evenings had followed the same rhythm. Dinner smells, soft music, small talk. Tonight, the kitchen lights were off. Maribel's shoes were by the door, but her voice was gone. Adrian walked deeper into the house, his footsteps loud in the silence. He told himself it was nothing. Maribel had been tired lately. She worked more. She smiled less. Marriage changed. That was normal. But something inside him refused to calm down. He found the envelope by accident. It had slipped from Maribel's bag and landed half-hidden under the table. He would not have picked it up if his name had not been printed on it wrongly. The clinic address caught his eye. His fingers tightened before his mind could stop them. Adrian opened it. Medical terms, numbers, dates, tests. Not his. His heart beat faster, not with anger yet, but confusion. Maribel had always told him everything, or so he thought. He folded the paper and placed it back where he found it, as if touching it longer would make the truth heavier. When Maribel finally appeared from the bedroom, she froze when she saw him standing there. "You're home early," she said. "Yes," Adrian replied. His voice sounded calm, even to him. Maribel smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. She walked past him, busying herself with nothing, opening drawers that did not need opening. Adrian watched her closely. Her movements were careful. Her hands shook just a little. "You didn't call," she said. "I thought I would surprise you." She nodded too fast. They ate leftovers in silence. Adrian studied her face. The woman he had loved since his late 20s sat across from him, familiar and distant at the same time. Her hair was tied back, her face softer than it once was, but still beautiful to him. Yet something had changed. Her body looked different, not heavier, just fuller, protected. "Are you sick?" Adrian asked suddenly. Maribel's fork paused midair. "What?" "You've been tired. You don't sleep well. You avoid wine now." She laughed softly. "I'm getting older, Adrian." "So am I." She looked away. That night, Adrian did not sleep. He lay awake listening to Maribel breathe, counting the seconds between her turns in bed. For the first time in years, her presence felt like a wall instead of comfort. The next weeks moved fast, too fast. Maribel left early in the mornings and came home late. She wore loose clothes. She avoided mirrors when Adrian was around. He stopped asking questions and started watching. He noticed her flinch when the phone rang, how she deleted messages right away, how she smiled only when talking about her sister, Elena. Elena had always been fragile, younger, softer. Life had not been kind to her. 3 failed pregnancies, endless tears. Adrian had held Maribel through many nights when she cried for her sister. "Elena deserves to be a mother," Maribel once said. "She would be perfect at it." Adrian agreed, but now every mention of Elena made his chest tighten. One afternoon, Adrian left work early. He drove without thinking, his hands guiding the wheel to a place he had never visited before. The fertility clinic from the envelope stood in front of him, quiet and clean, glass doors reflecting the sky. He stayed in the car for a long time. Then he drove away. That night, Maribel came home with color in her cheeks. She seemed lighter, almost relieved. Adrian hated himself for noticing. "Did you see Elena today?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "She needed me." Always needed me, Adrian thought. Weeks passed. Maribel's body changed slowly but clearly now. Adrian could no longer deny what he saw. He wanted to ask, he wanted to shout, but fear wrapped around his throat. Fear that once the truth was spoken, there would be no return. The truth arrived on a rainy Tuesday. Adrian was folding laundry when he found a document hidden inside a sweater. He did not search for it. It fell into his hands as if it wanted to be found. Surrogacy agreement. His vision blurred. He read it once, then again. Each word cut clean and deep. Maribel's name, Elena's name, the doctor's signature, dates that explained everything. The room spun. Adrian sat on the bed, the paper shaking in his hands. His wife had made a decision that changed her body, her life, and their marriage without him. When Maribel came home, Adrian did not raise his voice. He did not throw the paper. He simply held it up. Her face drained of color. "How long?" he asked. Maribel's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Tears filled her eyes, but Adrian felt no relief, only emptiness. "Please," she whispered, "let me explain." But explanations felt small next to the weight in his chest. "You carried another life inside you," he said slowly, "and I was the last to know." "It wasn't like that," she cried. "I didn't betray you." Adrian laughed once, short and sharp. "You made a choice without me." Maribel fell to her knees, sobbing. She spoke fast, words spilling out. Elena's pain, the doctor's call, the chance that might never come again. How Maribel felt it was her duty as a sister. How she planned to tell him but never found the right time. "I was afraid," she said. "Afraid you would say no." That sentence broke something inside Adrian. For days, they lived like strangers. Maribel slept in the guest room. Adrian stayed late at work. They spoke only when necessary. The house felt hollow, like love had been removed and replaced with quiet guilt. Adrian's anger did not explode. It sunk, deep and cold. One evening, Adrian ran into Nora Hale at a coffee shop. She was older now, lines around her eyes, but her smile was the same, warm, curious. "Adrian Cole," she said, "I thought you disappeared." They talked, at first about nothing, then about life. Nora listened in a way Maribel had not in years. She didn't interrupt, she didn't hide. When Adrian told her his marriage was breaking, Nora touched his hand. Just once, just enough. That night, Adrian felt seen again. At home, Maribel sat alone, holding her stomach, whispering apologies to a child that was not hers to keep. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching her, feeling two truths collide, her sacrifice and his pain. And as the rain hit the windows, Adrian realized something quietly terrifying. Love had not ended. Trust had. The days moved forward, but something inside him stayed frozen. He woke up, went to work, answered emails, smiled when needed. On the surface, he looked normal. Inside, every thought circled the same question. How could 18 years mean so little to Maribel that she could cut him out so completely? Maribel tried to speak to him many times. She waited for the right moment, then lost her courage. When she did talk, Adrian listened without reacting. No anger, no comfort, just distance. That silence hurt her more than shouting ever could. Her body continued to change. The pregnancy became real, visible, impossible to hide. She moved slower now. Her back ached. At night, she sat alone, one hand on her stomach, feeling kicks that filled her with mixed emotions, love, sadness, and regret. She was doing something beautiful for her sister, yet losing her husband at the same time. Adrian noticed everything, but said nothing. Instead, he began spending more time away from home. He stayed late at the office, took longer routes driving back, and filled his evenings with noise so he didn't have to think. That's how Nora slowly entered his life again. At first, it was harmless. Coffee after work, long talks about books, memories, old dreams. Nora didn't push. She didn't ask for more. She simply listened. Adrian found himself telling her things he hadn't said out loud in years. He told her how lonely marriage could become without warning, how trust, once broken, felt love so unsafe. Nora looked at him with soft eyes, not pity, understanding. "You didn't deserve to be left out," she said once. That sentence stayed with him. At home, Maribel cooked meals Adrian barely touched. She left notes he didn't answer. She tried to explain again, but words failed her. How could she make him understand that her choice was not about pushing him away, but about pulling her sister out of despair? But she made that choice alone, and that truth followed her everywhere. One afternoon, Adrian came home late and smelled a different perfume on his own coat. Maribel noticed it right away. Her heart sunk, but she said nothing. She had no right to accuse. She was already guilty. As weeks passed, Adrian changed. He dressed better. He smiled more, just not at home. He laughed again, something Maribel had not heard in a long time. She watched him from across the room, feeling like a guest in their own marriage. Nora became the place where Adrian felt alive again. They walked together, talked until the cafe closed, shared long silences that felt safe. He did not touch her, but his heart leaned towards her more each day. He knew what he was doing, and he did not stop. One afternoon, Adrian received a message from Maribel. She asked him to come to her next doctor visit. She wanted him there. She needed him there. Adrian stared at the message for a long time, then replied with one word, "No." Maribel cried in the clinic waiting room alone. Elena held her hand, thanking her again and again, unaware of the damage growing at the center of her.
The morning arrived, gray and tense. The rain from the previous night leaving slick trails along the villa's stone walkways. Ava stood at the balcony, wrapping herself in the blanket Liam had offered the night before, staring out at the restless ocean. Her heart pounded in anticipation of what was coming. She could hear the faint echo of her parents' voices in her memory, sharp and commanding, warning her of everything she was supposedly not ready for. She paced the villa, each step a mixture of fear and determination. Running her fingers along the polished surfaces, imagining the confrontation that would inevitably happen. The first knock came late in the morning, sharp and insistent, echoing through the high-ceilinged halls. Marlene's voice rang through the door, demanding she open it, each word dripping with authority and expectation. Ava hesitated for a heartbeat before stepping forward, taking a deep breath and unlocking the grand door. Her mother stormed in first, heels clicking loudly against the marble floors, eyes sharp, scanning the villa as though she were inspecting a trophy to claim. Joseph followed, shoulders squared, holding a smug smile, the kind that made her feel small and trapped even before he spoke. "So," her mother began, voice sharp, "your grandfather bought you a villa. Oh, nice. Hand over the keys so we can manage it properly." Ava felt her chest tighten, a familiar knot forming in her stomach. "The villa is mine. Grandpa gave it to me," she said, her voice trembling despite her attempt at firmness. Her father scoffed, pacing the entry hall. "And you think you can handle something like this? You barely manage your own life. We'll take care of the place. Give us the keys." The words hit her like a wave. Their entitlement, their constant need to control. Wrapped around her like chains, she had struggled to break free from her entire life. She felt a surge of anger mixed with fear, remembering years of small humiliations, being told she wasn't capable, that she would never measure up. And now they stood here expecting to claim what wasn't theirs, threatening the one thing that finally felt like hers. Liam appeared quietly from the hallway, calm and steady, his presence immediately grounding. "Mr. and Mrs. Hart," he said firmly but without aggression. "This villa legally belongs to Ava. She does not have to hand anything over." Marlene's eyes narrowed, the mask of civility slipping for a moment. "Who are you to speak in family matters?" she demanded, voice rising. Liam didn't flinch, only looked at Ava for a moment, ensuring she had the courage to stand with him. "Someone who respects her," he said simply. Ava felt warmth bloom inside her at that phrase. Someone had her back. Someone wasn't willing to let her be bullied, manipulated, or silenced. The argument escalated quickly, voices bouncing off the walls, echoing in the grand spaces that had felt so peaceful just hours before. Her parents threatened legal action, guilt-tripped her, insisted that her grandfather's gift was invalid or temporary, and tried to convince her that she was incapable of managing it. Each sentence, each word reminded her of childhood battles she had never won, of the quiet moments when she had felt invisible, powerless. Liam remained steady, interjecting when necessary, but mostly giving her space to assert herself, to claim her voice for the first time in a long time. Ava took a deep breath and stood taller, repeating firmly, "The villa is mine. It belongs to me, and I will not hand over the keys." Her voice grew stronger with each repetition, as if the words themselves carried a kind of magic that reminded her of her worth, her independence, and the love her grandfather had for her. Marlene and Joseph exchanged glances, frustrated that their usual tactics weren't working. Ava noticed the tension in their faces, the way their eyes darted between her and Liam, realizing that their threats no longer held power here. They argued for over an hour, pacing the rooms, inspecting the furniture as though ownership could be claimed through presence alone. Liam quietly pointed out small things, documents, legal protections, security measures that ensured Ava's claim was solid. Her parents' patience began to wane, their faces reddening with the frustration of encountering resistance. Ava, in turn, felt a surge of exhilaration, a fierce pride in the way she was standing up for herself for the first time. She noticed Liam watching her, the subtle way his eyes followed her movements. Not in judgment, but in quiet admiration and concern. Her chest warmed in a way she couldn't quite explain. After what felt like an eternity, Marlene finally spat out, "We'll be back. You can't hide forever, Ava. You can't keep taking what isn't yours." Joseph nodded, his jaw tight. "Think carefully. We won't give up. Not this easily." And with that, they stormed out, slamming the door behind them, leaving Ava shaking but resolute. The villa was quiet once more, the echo of their threats lingering in the high ceilings like a stubborn shadow. Liam approached, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did well," he said softly. "You didn't falter, and you didn't give in." Ava felt tears prick her eyes, the mix of relief and residual fear creating a heavy but cleansing emotion inside her. "I was terrified," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. They've always made me feel small." Liam's eyes softened, and he brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. "Not anymore. Not here, not with me. You're safe, Ava." The words were simple, but they carried weight. For the first time, someone was telling her that she could exist without fear, that she could claim happiness, claim space, and claim her life. A silence fell over the villa, heavy with unspoken emotions. The storm from the previous night had passed, leaving clouds scattered across the sky, and soft sunlight filtered through the tall windows, bathing the rooms in a gentle warmth. Ava walked through the villa slowly, touching the surfaces, noticing every detail: the carved wood, the polished floors, the soft glow of the lamps, the way the ocean glinted in the distance through the windows. Every element felt alive, as if the villa itself recognized her as its rightful owner, as if it had been waiting for her all along. Liam followed at a distance, unobtrusive but present, his quiet support giving her strength. She found herself thinking of him more than she should, wondering why his presence felt so comforting, so reassuring, so essential. There was a subtle tension building between them, something unspoken but undeniable, a sense of connection that went beyond gratitude. But before she could dwell on it too much, a new concern emerged, the looming threat of her parents returning, more determined, more cunning, more relentless. She couldn't ignore it, couldn't let herself be lulled into false security. The villa was hers, yes, but the battle for control of her life was far from over. That evening, she found herself on the balcony again, watching the waves crash below, feeling the ocean's power and permanence. Liam joined her quietly, offering a blanket without a word, standing close but allowing her space. The quiet between them was comforting, intimate even, and Ava felt a flutter in her chest she hadn't acknowledged before. "Thank you," she whispered finally, voice soft, "for staying, for helping me." He glanced at her, eyes steady and full of warmth. "You don't need to thank me. You deserve to have someone on your side." The simplicity of his words struck her, resonating deep inside. It wasn't just the villa or the protection, or the guidance. It was the acknowledgement that she deserved support, that she was worthy of standing tall, that she wasn't alone. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life that included Liam not just as a protector, but as someone who might care for her, truly and deeply. But before she could let herself dream, the sound of a car on the long driveway reminded her that her parents might return at any moment. Anxiety surged again, the tension between fear and hope tightening in her chest. Liam took her hand gently, grounding her. "Whatever happens, I'll be here. You don't have to face them alone." The words were a lifeline, and Ava clung to them. The villa, the ocean, the warmth of Liam's presence, they combined into a fragile but undeniable sense of hope, one she hadn't felt in years. She knew tomorrow could bring confrontation, threats, and emotional turmoil. But she also knew she was no longer the same person who had cowered under her parents' criticism. Tonight, she had claimed a small victory, a spark of independence, and a taste of the life she wanted. As night fell, the villa bathed in soft moonlight. Ava allowed herself to sit quietly on the balcony, holding Liam's hand, feeling the world settle around her. She imagined herself walking through the villa with confidence, facing her parents with strength, and perhaps even finding a life that included connection, care, and love. The challenges ahead were real, but for the first time, Ava felt capable. The villa was hers, and with Liam by her side, she might just survive the storm her parents were about to bring. Her heart swelled with a mix of fear, relief, and something tender she hadn't named yet. She whispered into the night, "I will not let them take this from me." And Liam squeezed her hand in agreement. A silent vow, and together they watched the ocean, knowing that the coming days would test them both, but also feeling that somehow they were ready to face it together. The villa, the ocean, and the soft glow of moonlight seemed to promise that even when her parents returned, even when threats were made, even when fear clawed at her chest, she had a place where she belonged. Liam's steady presence, the sound of the waves, and the weight of her grandfather's love gave her co. The morning sun spilled gold across the villa, but Ava Hart could feel the weight of the previous day still pressing against her chest. The confrontation with her parents had left her shaken. A mixture of adrenaline, relief, and lingering fear coursing through her veins. Liam moved quietly around the villa, making sure everything was in order, his presence calm and reassuring. And she couldn't help but notice how grounded he made her feel, as if his steadiness were an anchor she had longed for. She wandered the hallways, touching the polished wood and marble surfaces, reminding herself that this place, finally, belonged to her. The villa was more than walls and windows. It was a promise, a symbol of independence, and a testament to the rare love her grandfather held for her, a love her parents had never understood. Yet, just as she felt a moment of peace, the phone buzzed with a message that made her heart tighten. It was from her father. "We'll be back. You haven't heard the last of this." Ava swallowed hard, the old knot of fear twisting in her stomach, but she refused to let it consume her. Liam gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens, I'll stay. You don't have to face them alone," he said softly, and the reassurance in his voice gave her courage. They spent the rest of the morning preparing for the inevitable, checking doors, making sure legal papers were in place, and even rehearsing how Ava might respond to threats and manipulations. Her grandfather, Raymond, had been ill for some time, but he had promised to arrive today, sensing that Ava would need him most. As the sun climbed higher, Ava looked out over the garden, imagining her parents' arrival, their confident strides and sharp eyes, expecting to take what they could not. The doorbell rang, tense and insistent, and Ava felt her chest tighten again. Marlene stormed in first, her eyes sweeping the grand rooms as if claiming them by gaze alone. Joseph followed, a smug expression plastered across his face, holding an envelope that looked official, heavy with the weight of their expectations and threats. "You think this is over?" Joseph growled. "We've spoken to the family lawyer. Your grandfather's estate can be contested, and everything he's given you could be challenged, including this villa." Ava's stomach dropped, the threat slicing through her like cold steel. She had feared their persistence, but this was worse than words. They weren't just trying to take the villa, they were trying to take her peace, her sense of safety, her claim to a life she had finally begun to build. Liam stepped in front of her, unwavering. "The villa legally belongs to Ava. All threats are null," he said firmly, his calm voice cutting through the tension. Marlene's face twisted with disbelief. "Who do you think you are, speaking to us this way?" she demanded. Liam didn't answer, only looked at Ava, silently asking if she could stand her ground. Ava drew a deep breath, feeling the fire of her own strength ignite. The villa is mine. Grandpa gave it to me. You cannot take it, she said clearly, her voice steady despite the fear that churned inside her. Her parents' faces shifted, frustration giving way to anger. But Ava felt the power of words she had practiced, the resolve she had built, and the protective presence of Liam beside her. The discussion grew heated, words sharp, accusations thrown like knives, each sentence intended to break her resolve. But Ava noticed something she hadn't expected: the strength that came from knowing she was not alone. Liam's steady gaze, his calm assurance, reminded her that she could face this, that she didn't have to bow to their demands, and that her grandfather's love was a shield no legal loophole could pierce. Hours passed in tense debate, legal arguments, threats, and manipulation attempts, until finally, her grandfather arrived. Raymond Hart, leaning on his cane, his face pale but his eyes bright and commanding, entered the villa quietly, surveying the scene. Ava felt a rush of relief, of safety, of validation, knowing he had come when she needed him most. "Ava," he asked softly, his voice carrying authority without aggression. She ran to him, embracing him tightly, feeling the weight of worry she hadn't realized she was carrying melt slightly against his steady presence. He held her close, whispering words of reassurance, reminding her of the love that had always been hers, that no one could take away. "Your grandfather," her mother hissed. "We can," Raymond interrupted, his voice sharp and controlled. "This villa is protected. It belongs to Ava, and nothing you do can change that. You will leave now, or face consequences you cannot imagine." Marlene and Joseph froze, their anger faltering under the weight of his authority. "Get out," Raymond said again, softer this time but no less commanding. They hesitated, then stormed out, doors slamming behind them, leaving Ava trembling but victorious. She felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of relief, triumph, and lingering fear finally releasing in a long exhale. Liam stepped closer, offering a comforting hand. "You did it," he said softly, his eyes filled with pride and something warmer that made her chest flutter. Ava smiled, a genuine smile, free of fear, as she allowed herself to relax for the first time since the villa had entered her life. The villa, silent and calm now, felt like a sanctuary, a home that had been waiting for her all along. The sun began to set, casting golden light across the marble floors and filling the high ceilings with warmth. Ava walked through the villa slowly, touching the walls, running her fingers along the polished surfaces, imagining a future filled with peace, with freedom, and perhaps with love. Liam followed at a careful distance, respecting her space but remaining present. And Ava felt a warmth in her chest she couldn't ignore. As night fell, the villa glowed softly, lanterns casting shadows across the garden. And Ava found herself standing beside Liam on the balcony, looking out at the moonlit ocean. The world felt still, calm, safe. "Stay," she whispered, a plea and a promise. "Not because you have to, but because you make this place feel like home." Liam's eyes softened, and for the first time, the tension between them shifted from quiet longing to something more tangible. He leaned closer, hesitating only briefly before their lips met in a gentle, careful kiss, full of unspoken promises. Ava's chest fluttered, warmth spreading through her as if the villa itself were celebrating with her. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine a life where she didn't have to fight alone. A life where she could be happy, independent, and loved. The kiss broke softly, lingering in the quiet night, and Ava felt a peace she had never known. The villa, the ocean, the moonlight, and Liam's presence all seemed to whisper that she had finally arrived somewhere that was truly hers. Raymond watched from the doorway, a small smile on his face, proud not only of the gift he had given, but of the granddaughter who had finally found her courage. Ava looked back at the villa, imagining mornings filled with sunlight, afternoons spent painting, and evenings watching the waves, knowing that every challenge, every confrontation, every fear had led her here. Her parents' absence was not just a relief, it was a liberation. Proof that she could claim her life, stand up to threats, and protect the happiness she had fought for. Liam's hand in hers was steady, reassuring, a silent vow that whatever came next, she would not face it alone. Ava closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling the salty night air, feeling the cool breeze on her face, and allowed herself to believe in the life she had always dreamed of but never dared to have. The villa was more than a home. It was freedom, independence, and a symbol of love that had always been hers, waiting for her to claim it. The evening stretched into night, quiet and soft. The ocean's waves singing a lullaby as if congratulating her on the battles won. Ava and Liam stood together on the balcony, speaking little, their silence filled with shared understanding and the beginnings of something deeper than friendship. In that moment, she realized that the villa had not only given her a home, but had brought someone into her life who saw her worth, respected her strength, and offered companionship she had long denied herself. As the night deepened, Ava wandered through the villa once more, touching the walls, imagining the future. Feeling the heartbeat of the place sync with her own, she realized that she had grown in ways she had not expected. Her courage, her independence, and her willingness to accept love were all part of the gift her grandfather had given, more valuable than stone or marble. She allowed herself a small, genuine laugh, a sound that felt foreign and exhilarating, and Liam's eyes caught hers with a smile that mirrored her own. The villa, quiet and majestic, seemed to embrace them both, offering a safe haven for dreams, art, love, and life. Ava felt her heart expand with hope, knowing that the storms of her past had led her here, to a place of power and peace where her parents could no longer control her, and where she could finally be the person she had always wanted to become. She whispered into the night, almost to herself, "This is mine. I am mine, and I will live." Liam squeezed her hand gently, a silent agreement, and together they looked out over the moonlit ocean, ready to embrace the life that awaited them, knowing that challenges might come, but they would face them together, stronger and braver than ever. That Thanksgiving, Ava Hart finally understood what it meant to be free, loved, and fully herself. And she knew, deep down, that the villa would hold not just memories of battles fought, but of joy, growth, and a future she had the power to shape. With the gentle rhythm of the waves, the soft glow of the